Hi guys, so get ready with me for church as I talk about part 3 of Celpip reading. So part 3 of Celpip reading is about matching your paragraph to the question that is asked. So you identify which paragraph that has that exact question that the question matches, not exact that the question matches. It can be the meaning that matches it. From here, this is where self-help reading really gets tough, gets difficult, and you really need a high level of attention at this part. You need to read for meaning, you need to pay attention. This is where everything you have been reading, like you have been practicing for reading, like you really need to apply it. The passage itself is quite lengthy, so you need to pay attention. You do not have the whole time to go through the whole passage because of time. That's my personal opinion. So the person I do is to skim the passage, skim read the passage. So I go through the each paragraph by understand what the context of each paragraph, what the main ideas. I try to understand the main ideas in each passage, in each paragraph, what they're talking about, and I do that by skim reading and also reading the headings of the first sentence and the last sentence of each of the paragraph. That way it gives me an idea of what that particular paragraph is talking about. That's how I develop the main idea of each paragraph. So it's important for you to note that this particular section does not follow sequence in asking questions. There is no structure. So it can ask the questions from the last paragraph or the middle. It does not follow sequence. So have that in mind. You just go up and down, asking your question from anywhere, wherever it didn't fit. So after skim reading your passage that you have understand what each paragraph is talking about, you go straight to the question. When you read your question, now this is where the work starts. Try to identify the key words. Now, for this particular part, try to identify two keywords. Most times, there's always like two keywords in the questions. One of the keywords, you would see it all over the passage. It's always everywhere, and that is to confuse you because you don't know. You will start looking for it all around. So now that's where the second keyword comes in handy. You look for the second keyword and use it to trace the exact paragraph. It's the second keyword you will use to trace the exact paragraph where your answer may lie or may not lie. I'm not saying that where you see that keyword, that second keyword is where your answer may lie, because this part of self-help is quite tricky. So now, when you have identified your second keyword, that's where the main work starts, like I said. Now, the next thing you have to do is to identify the action word in that question. What are they telling you that that keyword is doing, or what they want you to find? Sometimes they may tell you like to identify the paragraph that talk about the process of something of that particular of that those keywords that they give you. But in that paragraph that you find that you think is the right fit, they might be talking about process. Rather, they may be talking about benefits. Sorry. So process and benefit are not the same thing. You will now assume that, oh, because they were talking about those keywords in that particular paragraph, you will now go and pick that paragraph. That's wrong. That's where not giving comes in. So there are two situations. Let me say this: there are two situations where you have not giving, where you have not given in a place where the action words of what they ask you in the question and differs from the action words of what they are talking about in the paragraph. So make sure that the action words are the same in terms of meaning. Now, if not, it's not given. It doesn't mean because those keywords are there that means it's correct, that's the correct paragraph. It can still be that it's not given, even though you find all the keywords there. The meaning may not mean the same thing. The actions of what is discussed is different from the action of the question. Another important point to pay attention to is what's it called now? Is for you to pay attention to negative words, contrast, constraints. Pay attention to it, because sometimes you would feel like, oh, you have seen the paragraph that talked about it because the sentence is there, but you are not reading for that to see where they say however, or they may ask you in the question now, which of this is not and then you are going to pick the ones you can see that is identical. So pay attention to negative words, to contrast, to pay close attention. Those things are traps for to get you to know if you actually understand meaning. So pay attention, read a little bit further to make sure there is no constraints. Pay attention to negative words like not in the questions. So let me say this again. Focus on meaning, not identical word. Pay attention to meaning. In fact, for me, when I see identical words and it seems like the question is just straightforward to the whatever is in the passage, it makes me to be more alert to read it again, to read again the passage, to see that the paragraph, to make sure that I'm actually getting the meaning of what they are asking. So it's not that straightforward. When you just see it, you feel like it's there. So pay attention to meaning. So the last thing that in this section is that there is actually situations where the question is not in the passage. That's the second the second point where you can use not given. The first one is when the action words of the question and the action words in that particular paragraph is different. It doesn't mean that it's dead. So it means that you choose not given because they are talking about processes and maybe the paragraph is talking about benefits. It's not given. So why the other option is when it is not given, it is not there, you cannot see it anywhere in the passage. So to end this video, read for meaning, pay attention to action words, and pay attention to your time, because this particular paragraph is lengthy, is confusing. So be conscious of your time. Do not waste so much time in a question when you can't really figure out the question. Just pick something that you feel that is closer and go to the next question. When you have enough time, then you go back to it.